Now, South African pianist and independent artist Keenan Meyer has recently released his debut track, Komani, featuring saxophonist Tshepo Tsotetsi. The track appears on his upcoming debut album titled The Alchemy of Living, a 12-track project which features fellow artist Sthembiso Bhengu, Keorapetse Kolwane, as well as talented South African jazz musician Zoë Modiga. He joined us this morning to share more details of his album. A very good morning to you, Keenan. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Good morning, Sims. Thank you for having me, and good morning to everyone who's joined.
It's good to have you on the show, Keenan. First of all, who is Keenan Meyer, and what sparked your interest in music, particularly jazz music?
I think Keenan Meyer is a musician, artist, being who has a very big passion for advocacy towards archiving our national, exploring our national archive rather, and really bringing representation to my roots, and I don't know, contributing to a paradigm shift in how we view ourselves as African people, as a queer, colored person, even though I reject the term colored, how I then sort of show up in society. I think that's where I find music to be very helpful as a modality for that, and a vehicle for my expression. And so jazz music specifically, I think I'm not a jazz musician. I'm definitely in the classical space. And I think because of the sound that people have heard, they sort of classified me there. But I put it outright that I don't have the harmonic language for to say I'm a jazz pianist. But I found that specifically in studying music in South Africa, and obviously being a decolonial scholar, I've had to sort of unpack the importance of jazz in the story of our country and how I can then carry that going forward. And so I think The Alchemy of Living, which I think is it's not just the single, The Alchemy of Living is released. It was released on the 25th of June. So it's on all streaming platforms. That sort of, for me, represents the culmination of my love for the Western idiom and marrying that with the South African jazz philosophy. Yes.
And the title is very profound. I mean, The Alchemy of Living. Tell us what inspired this title.
So The Alchemy of Living was named, there's a picture over there, that was a self-produced show that I staged in the Youngblood Gallery in Cape Town, and then at a sold-out staging at the Melders Gallery in Johannesburg in 2019. And The Alchemy of Living, so if we consider what alchemy means, it's not to do with the transmutation of base metals, you know, the chemical process of creating gold, but more, and I think what helped this process was being under lockdown. I have to say that there was some benefit of me being confined to my own space and having the ability to engage my craft like I've never before. And so in that process, it was a spiritual alchemy for me, and that was just understanding the intersections of my spirituality and how I make sense of that. And so The Alchemy of Living, I think, speaks to that, the liberation and transformation process of the soul. And I sought to really bring that out through themes in the music, and also just compositional techniques.
Yeah, and what are these themes? I mean, you've seen that you've got 12 tracks on the offering. What themes carry out throughout the album?
I think there's a string of spirituality, and I start with Santa Teresa, and Santa Teresa was really a dedication. It's a celebration song for me, because it's a song through catharsis, and it's dedicated rather to the chapter of my life that ended, and that was honors here, and so I think that type of freedom is communicated throughout the music. If you're listening to it, for example, healing, there's a lot of healing. There's elements of delving into unpacking what it means to be Christian in this space. Am I accepting that doctrine? Or, for example, Eloi, which closes the album. Eloi is it's a improvisatory expression which seeks to sort of give representation to the despair of death. And so I specifically spoke about Eloi because I've studied, St. Matthew's Passion, Johann Sebastian Bach, and all of these sacred works. And so for me, it was just a continuation of what I've seen before. And so for me, I looked at the figure of Jesus Christ outside of what we were given as children, or outside of the narrative that they've taught to us. I looked at him purely as a revolutionary figure, and that he defied, and I think that's an example for me, even as an artist. I think the Alchemy of Living for me also it's a defiant piece, because there's a lot of my expression that I had to sort of dial down in order to cater to society's needs. And growing up in a colored space, just the problems that come with fully embracing yourself. And so I think that is carried right through the album, is elements of healing, themes of defiance, of acknowledging self instead of seeing or seeking validation outside of self. Yeah.
Now, Keenan, I see that you have a Grammy Award-winning American producer, Q and is behind the mixing and the mastering of this musical offering. So how did you get him to work with you in this album?
So I'm thankful to my producer, Banda, who has so graciously come on board. And so obviously being exposed to people of that nature, caliber rather, of like Banda, who is taking the industry forward, and having him extend his network into my work. So I think that's how the whole connection came up with Q, who's a lovely soul. I'm so thankful for how he's really brought and brought life to the music. It was done virtually, obviously. We wanted to do LA, but we couldn't due to restrictions.
Sure.
But yeah, he really came on board, and it was a lot of energies that are involved in the alchemy. It's not just Keenan Meyer, there's so many energies, and he specifically is such a profound, who's so in tune with himself, I find. And so it's very difficult, if you weren't in studio, when mixing and mastering happens, the meaning of the music can easily be lost. But I think it was as if he was there with us, and I'm thankful for that.
And you worked with quite a few big names in the industry, from Zoë Modiga, Tshepo to Sthembiso. How did you get them to feature on the album?
These are all peers from high school.
Is it?
Tshepo Tsotetsi is NSA. So when I first was accepted in the NSA, where there's like a Bri at that. There used to be a Bri, and he played. I remember he was 2009 matric, and I just was taken aback by this energy, bombastic energy, and I just loved it. And I think just following through from varsity, and seeing and wanting to work with him to this point, and like trusting the process to happen by itself. So when it did happen last year, it was just like, I've known these people, I've been in their spaces, I've watched Zoe multiple times, as a student, second year, third year, and now to ask them to be on the project, because I think it was a matter of resonating with what my why was, to really bring representation to the musical heritage of South Africa and also of myself. And I think that's a lot of what they stand for. And so it wasn't a difficult process to ask for their hand in my work.
Okay, just a quick one, Keenan, before we let you go. How do your fans connect with you?
So I'm on Instagram at Keenan Meyer Piano, and then on Twitter at Keenan John Meyer.
Keenan, just listening to you and hearing your music, I know that you are the next big thing here in South Africa, and especially on the South African music scene. Thank you so much, and all the best in your music.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. We just spoke to pianist Keenan Meyer, and he made his professional music debut with the Komani featuring Tshepo Tsotetsi ahead of the release of his debut, the Alchemy of Living album.